What's going on, everybody? We are talking boxing, and I decided to start something a little bit different that I'm sure somebody else has done, but I wanted to kind of put my brand on it. Just kind of looking through like sometimes some current great fighters from the past, but kind of like going through their whole careers, just like and from bottom to the top, just kind of getting a really good picture on like where they started and where they are now, or where they ended their careers if their careers is already over. So the first person I chose to talk about right now is Gervonta Davis. Tank has a fight coming up. I've already interviewed Lamont Roach. If you haven't had a chance to see that, make sure you take a look at that. The link is in the description. Also, if you haven't yet liked this video, go ahead and do it. Put some faith in your boy. I believe you will like it. Haven't subscribed to the channel, do that too. Or if you want to wait and just see a little bit of what I'm talking about before you do that, I understand that. That's cool too. Yeah, we're going to talk about Gervonta Davis's career from the beginning to the end and just kind of go through each fight. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on some of the earlier fights because why do that, but because they kind of are what they are, right? But we'll start from the beginning. Career started on February 22nd, 2013 in DC Army in Washington, which is obviously Tank's hometown. Called Desi Williams. Desi Williams was 0-4 at that time. What happened is what you would expect should happen for a fighter with Gervonta's talent. His first career fight, first round knockout. Desi Williams, like I said, was 0-4. Then he fought two cats who were having their professional debut, and this is also in similar to around Gervonta's hometown area. Jacob Nino, I believe is how you want to spell his name, April 20th, 2013. Then again, later that year, a little less than 2 months after that, Jonathan Gears. Both of those fights are knockouts, 4-rounders, first and second round knockouts. Then he goes and fights Rafael Casillas it's probably Casillas. Rafael Casillas. We're still in the Baltimore area. Fought him at Coppin State University, going up to 6-rounder for that one. It says Casillas had a cut over his eye. I didn't see any of these fights. The first fight I saw for Gervonta was in 2015. That's the first fight I actually saw of his. So this one we at the mercy of what BoxRec says. If there's somebody who actually saw these fights and you can comment in the comments and add some perspective, by all means do that. If you look here, he fought in 2013 6 times. So that's a lot of action, obviously, early on, which is fairly normal, right, for a young fighter that's got some talent. Eric Jamar Goodall, that was in October of 2013. That's a 4th round. He actually made it to the 4th round, got TKO'd in the 4th round. Then we got James Franks in December of 2013, last fight of that year. Also, that was at the Walter E. Washington Convention Center. That's a 6-rounder, knocked him out in the 2nd round. Then we go into his second full year as a professional. Joshua Aracho. Joshua Aracho had a 3-9-4 rank record, so we already know this ain't gonna go well. Foxwoods Resort in Mashantucket. He quit on the stool, I'm assuming, after the 2nd round. It was a 4-rounder. We're still in the 4-rounders. August 1st, Hector Lopez was making his professional debut. Nobody was doing Hector a favor at all in that one. He got knocked out in the 1st round. I don't know if, I'm interested in even knowing if Hector fought again. Gotta find out. I don't know. I'm interested in knowing if Hector ever fought again. No, Hector fought that one time, y'all. Y'all did Hector bogus. Hector fought one time, people. He fought Gervonta Davis on August 1st, 2014, got knocked out and never fought again. I hope he's all right, but he didn't fight again. All right, now this is here when we see the German Ivan Miraz fight. This one is interesting. And the reason why is because Gervonta came down to 126 to fight him, which is he fought at 127 before and 126, but this one is pretty interesting because he fought at 132 to fight before that, and he came back down to 126 and fought Miraz. And Miraz is by far the most experienced fighter that he fought at that time. It's a 6-round fight. He dropped Miraz twice, but Miraz became the first of only 2 people in Gervonta Davis's career that have actually gone the distance with him. Okay, so that fight is pretty, I think, significant when you look at the grand scheme of things. Now, of course, Miraz lost every fight. Every round. There's a 10-8 round in every round. A 10-8 round in the 2 rounds when he got dropped, and he lost every round, period. But this was definitely a test, a little bit of a step up for Gervonta, and he passed it with flying colors, even though he did not get the stoppage. Now we move into 2015. This is right around the time when I'm getting wind of him. 6-rounder against Israel Suarez Almeida, wins that knockout in the first round. Back up to fighting at 132. Alberto Mora, he's knocked out in the first round. That was an 8-rounder at that point. That was the first time he'd been scheduled to go 8 rounds. Didn't get that far. 2015, the first time I heard of him, against Reki Dulé. And this is the first fight I saw of his. First round TKO. It honestly, it went so fast. It happened so quickly. All I could tell was that, yes, he's explosive. You couldn't really tell much besides that. Now, the first time I got a somewhat of an extended look at him was this fight here against Cristobal Cruz. I believe this fight, if I'm not mistaken, was on PBC, was on Bounce TV, because at the beginning, when PBC first dropped, they had like deals with a couple different networks, and the smaller fighters were on Bounce. And so at this time, that's where Gervonta was. This is October 30th, 2015. He smashed Cristobal Cruz, and Cristobal Cruz had the best record by far, even though clearly at 40-18-4, you're a journeyman. But this was really, again, yet another step up. The fight was only scheduled for 8 rounds. He got stopped in the 3rd. Moving up, Luis Sanchez. I don't think I saw this fight, but this one went to the 9th round. Now, Sanchez was down in the 8th and once in the 9th, but he made it to the 9th round. First time Gervonta was scheduled to go 10 rounds. He did get the stoppage. It was a little bit later, but he got it. Then he fights Guillermo Avila Godinez, and that was back in the DC Armory. I think when he got to this part, he was kind of getting some touch-ups before he then tried to take another step up, because this fight and the next one's not really a step up, but this is what he was doing just to kind of continue that momentum. He passed with flying colors, 6-round TKO of a fight that was scheduled for 10 rounds. Then he kind of takes a step back a bit. This could have been something of a stay busy fight, because it happened 2 months after the fight against Godinez. He fights Mario Antonio Macias, and that was in June of 2016. First round knockout. 8, like I said, it was scheduled for 8 rounds. It was at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. I've been there a few times. Pretty good venue for especially like a smaller fight like that. So wasn't there for that, but that was crazy. Now, this fight here probably is when a lot of people first saw him fight. I'd seen him fight once or twice before this, but this one is the one. January 2017, he eradicates Jose Pedraza. This was clearly a major step up. This is the first time that Gervonta had ever fought an undefeated fighter. So you can't count a guy who's making his debut, because he's undefeated, but he's also never won. But Pedraza was 22-0 at this time, and he got destroyed. And it was not close. The speed level, the power, all of that, just too much. I said, yeah, no, this kid is nice. I said, I still need to see more at this point. But his performance against Pedraza was just, still to this day, is one of his, I would say it's a top 5 performance for him in his career. Next up, he fought, and also obviously that was a humongous fight, because this is when he wins his first world title, wins the IBF super featherweight title for that fight. So that's a great fight. Now he has his first title defense, and he knocks out Liam Walsh in the 3rd round. This one was cool because it happened over the pond. This was a fight in the UK. He went there to fight Liam Walsh, who was also undefeated, 21-0 at the time. Stops him in the 3rd round. Huge overhand left. Really strong performance for him in this fight. Just now we getting that momentum, like, whoa, yeah, this dude is that. Here we are in the 3rd fight in 2017 against Francisco Fonseca. Another knockout, 8th round knockout. Now, he did miss weight for this fight, so which meant he got stripped of his title. And so only Fonseca could actually have won the title, but because he missed weight, he ended up vacating the title, which is tough because, you know, we know of everybody that he's fought at this point at super featherweight, he's been clearly the better fighter. But he loses the title at that point. So his next fight happens at super featherweight. He's 129 for the fight against Jesus Marcelo Andres Cuellar, and he knocks him out in the 3rd round. This is now only 12-round fights at this point for him, moving all the way through. Knocked him down in the 2nd round, twice in the 3rd. Next, we go up to Hugo Ruiz, right? 1st round knockout. Remember this one, filthy. Like, dang, I ain't gonna even lie. I was a little bit frightened for my man Hugo in this fight. At this point, I'm feeling about Gervonta is like, this kid is going to be his biggest enemy, himself. Because if he controls his weight, is disciplined, I don't know how many super featherweights or even lightweights are going to be able to beat him. And this is kind of something that's proven to be true. But if you look at it from 2018 to 2019, he only fought once in 2018. So he gets back into it in 19. And then this inactivity, which I think we're starting to see a little bit peek his head now too. That's the only thing that can really keep him, I think, from all-time greatness. He's just that talented. So, but here we are, 2019, knocks out Hugo Ruiz. Next up, he fights Ricardo Nunez, 21-2. This is in July of 2019. That's a 2nd round knockout. Remember that one as well. Now, this next fight I thought I thought at this point Gamboa was past his ability to actually push someone, but it turns out while he wasn't, I wouldn't call him much of a threat in this fight. I thought he was competitive throughout the entire fight. Gamboa was so awkward, and by this time he was a little bit older, so he didn't have quite as much quick twitch athleticism as he had earlier, but he was still kind of odd to fight. Gervonta has, I'm not gonna say he had no problems, but very little. Drops him 3 times in this fight. Uriokis was falling all over the place most of this fight. And it's on the scorecard, Gervonta won by a landslide, even if it had gone to a decision. But he shows a lot of dog by stopping him in the last round. Could have just skated to the victory. Then we get this fight in 2020. Gervonta goes back down to super featherweight, and he has this fight against that opponent. Like every fighter, especially like if they're not a Mexican fighter, they have a Mexican rival, because Mexican boxing is so prominent in pretty much every weight class there is. There is more than likely an elite either Mexican champion or contender. And so non-Mexican fighters is generally going to be a guy in your weight region that is the one that you got to kind of test yourself against to see where you are. And at this point in time in 2020, Leo Santa Cruz was that guy. Now we're in the middle of the pandemic, remember? And it's hard for people to make fights, period, because there's no, they don't want fans there. It's all kinds of stuff going on, right? This fight takes place in the Alamo Dome, which essentially is a road game for Gervonta. He comes in there, knocks him out in the 6th round. Now, the scorecards were close when he dropped him and when he finishes him. But I'm telling you, it was never, in my opinion, a doubt that the speed, power, and accuracy was just too much for Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz, to me, was probably fighting for at least to be fighting Gervonta. This was the wrong weight class to fight him in. He thought he looked just physically completely overmatched. He was 37-1 and 1 at the time. I think Santa Cruz was one of my favorite fighters at that time. Just the way he carries himself, the all action style, the toughness. I love that guy. But I knew that this was just not it for him. This was not the fight for him. Early on, I felt that I saw the gap there, and Gervonta just barged right through it. Then 2021, he fights Mario Barrios. Now Mario Barrios, we already know, has moved all the way up to fight at 147. He's a world champion there now. But before he went there, an 11th round TKO loss to Gervonta Davis. And we were starting to get to the point where that place there here in Atlanta, State Farm Arena, Gervonta was doing some business there. So I feel like that was going to be like his second home, so to speak, as he beats Gamboa there, comes back and beats Barrios there, but things move around. Now the next fight is, in my opinion, the toughest fight I've ever seen Gervonta Davis have. Isaac Pitbull Cruz, 22-1-1. This fight takes place at the Staples Center. This is the second guy and the last guy to take Gervonta the distance. They go the decision. Gervonta wins 115, 113 on 2 cards, 116, 112 on the other. Isaac Cruz put the work in. I'm telling you, and I'm going to tell y'all what really, in my opinion, was the thing that made it where Isaac Cruz gave Gervonta the toughest fight of his career. Gervonta has mastered the ability to fight and defeat and get an advantage on longer, taller guys. More than anybody I can remember, maybe with the exception of Pernell Whitaker, Gervonta is able to use his lack of height as a weapon for him to make himself tougher to hit. Now, what he has that Pernell did not have is crazy power and explosion. So while he's also tough to hit, when he does counter and explode, he's countering and exploding with world-class power. This is why he's such a great fighter. But the thing with Cruz is that Cruz is just a small, so he couldn't get under Cruz the way he gets under most fighters. And I felt like that was where a bit of the difficulty came in. The edge that I think Gervonta had against Cruz is that he was a tad bit quicker, and a little slicker. But Cruz had his moments for sure in this fight. Just stylistically, just a fantastic fight. And it's one I wouldn't mind see it again, even though I'm not sure if Cruz is still on the level. Even then, he'd have to obviously he'd have to come back up. But I thought that was a fantastic fight. Now next we were against Rolly Romero. Now Rolly has some moments too. This is when people are starting to doubt if Gervonta is really, really that guy, right? Because Gervonta's down on one scorecard against Rolly Romero when he stops him, up by 1 on another card, up by 3 on another card. You could have made the argument he should have been down by a point on all the cards. Nonetheless, Gervonta erases this kid in the 6th round. The sequence in the corner when he stops Rolly it almost is a little bit reminiscent, not exact same punches, but the feel of the fight at the time was similar to when Floyd stopped Roy Hatton with the check left hook in literally almost like in the same corner. It was different. The positioning was a little bit different, but the feel of the fight to me felt similar. And I thought he pulled one out in that. I know he's a better fighter than Romero, but I don't know what was going on at that time. Maybe it's just another stylistic matchup for him that was a little tougher. But it was an interesting, very competitive fight. One of the better fights that in terms of entertainment that I've seen from Gervonta. Not quite as tough as Cruz to me, even though he wasn't down in a fight against Cruz, but finishes with the knockout. Next, we got in 2023. As you see, he only fought once in 2022. We know we had some legal issues in there. January of 2023, Hector Luis Garcia stops him in the 9th round. He was pretty much in control of this fight from the beginning. Garcia came in undefeated, but I felt that Gervonta was in control of the whole fight. I didn't think he looked fantastic in this fight because I don't think that Hector Luis Garcia is quite on the level of Isaac Cruz and some of the other guys that he may have fought that he finished earlier. But he was tough and took him a few rounds to get him out of there. Next, we have the fight against Ryan Garcia, April of 2023. And I personally think, along with the Santa Cruz fight, this is one of his most impressive performances. People say all the time, Garcia is a one-handed fighter. It's mostly this left hook. If you find out how to dodge the left hook, you got him. I hear that. But Garcia is also, his hand speed is insane. He's also bigger, a lot bigger than when Gervonta, which of course we talked about the fact that I'm not even sure if that's a deterrent or a bad thing for Gervonta. But he's bigger. Garcia's a world-class talent, y'all. I know the antics and all of that, but dude is a world-class talent. if he wants to be truly great, he can be. And I felt he was motivated for this fight, plugged in. And speed-wise, early, I thought he was one of the few dudes that I ever saw from a hand speed standpoint that could somewhat stay in the same building as Gervonta. But the way Gervonta dismantled him, dropping him in the second and then with the body shot in the seventh, I mean, considering the caliber of fighter and the way he did that's the only other fight that to me that belongs in the same category. We talk about his best performances with Santa Cruz and Pedraza. What he did to Garcia was really pretty freaking amazing. So I put that one really high. Then we got Frank Martin, which is his last fight, the only fight he ended up having in 2024. I thought Frank Martin was boxing very well most of this fight, but I felt around about the sixth round, middle of the sixth round, we get into the seventh, you could visibly see him slowing down tremendously. And the thing about it was, for Frank Martin to beat Gervonta Davis, he had to fight an almost perfect fight. That's a very tough thing to do for anybody for 12 rounds. Like one at a time, and it's similar but not. Similar in some ways, right? When Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson wasn't right. He wasn't quite the Mike, right? It was I always say it was a perfect storm. You have a undertrained, underprepared Mike Tyson that's got all kinds of stuff going on outside of the ring and everything and all of that, against a dude like Buster Douglas, who is really talented, whose mother had just passed away, and he was using that as motivation, who had an also fantastic game plan. And when you mix all of that together, it becomes the perfect storm. And even in that fight, Buster Douglas didn't fight a full perfect fight. 10th round, he gets dropped. Or is it the 8th round he gets dropped, right? 8th round he gets dropped. Gets up, but he got dropped. But he had done enough, and it depleted Mike enough where once he got up, he actually won the fight once he got up, because he had more left in the tank. And of course, it goes on to arguably the biggest upset in boxing history. Frank Martin would have had to put on a performance like that in order to beat Gervonta Davis. And he ran out of gas around the 6th round, and middle of the 6th round. And Gervonta's like, yep, I knew this was going to happen. Also, your punches were never super stiff to begin with, and now I really feel that they lost steam, and I knew this was going to happen because we sparred together. I already knew what your deal is, and now I'm going to eat you. And that's exactly what happened. In the 8th round, he eats this guy alive. Humongous one-punch knockout in the corner, or right near the corner, and finishes the fight. Really mature performance from Gervonta. Maybe this one's in the top 5 towards the bottom, just because Frank Martin's a fantastic athlete on top of just being a boxer who has accumulated a decent amount of experience. He's 18-0. He had a bit of a game plan, coming into this fight. For Tank to have the patience and poise to wait out what was happening early, and to then make the adjustments and to dismantle him at the first crack that was shown, that's a mature finish. And that's what he did in that fight. So it was pretty dope. And now we're up to March 1st, at least we hope, against Lamont Roach. I don't think a lot of people are giving Lamont Roach a chance to win this fight. Lamont's a good dude. Had a great time talking to him during the interview, but I don't think he has a good shot to win this fight. Coming up in weight, never been a big puncher. Would need to be perfect. And I don't see. I mean, crazy things happen. I mean, man, we just saw Munguia get knocked out by a guy that wasn't supposed to be able to do anything with him. So this is boxing. Anything's happen. And Gervonta seems to be distracted, at least by something right now. So this is when things like that can happen. You can get caught up when you're not totally in. So for his sake, I hope he is. Because if it's there to be taken, I will tell you this: Lamont Roach is the type of fighter that's going to take it if it's there to be taken. But I just, all things considered, all things equal to what we expect him to be, I would expect for Gervonta to get a stoppage around the 6th or 7th round in this fight as well. So we'll see what happens. But that's all I got for you today. That was Gervonta Davis's career. I appreciate y'all watching, man. As always, if you haven't yet done it, I want you to please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and go ahead and subscribe. I appreciate you. God bless. Peace.